Happy Friday, everyone. Hope you're well. Welcome to the Solo Club live stream. Couple of pieces of housekeeping. Firstly, again, can you hear me okay? I'm still running this off the MacBook Pro speakers, MacBook Pro mic. Fingers crossed it's working. I haven't had time to fix the main mic because CES and all sorts of other things that are going on. And secondly, this is now streaming in 1080p. We've upgraded from 720, so we've come out of 1980. We're now roughly in 2005 or something, so it may look a little bit better as well. Who knows? You can hear me. That's good. Excellent. Good stuff. Welcome back to the live stream, guys. It's been 2 weeks because obviously I didn't do one last week. I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad I didn't do one. It's just I'm glad I didn't promise to do one because it would never have happened. Trust me. I had lots of fanciful ideas about how the week in Vegas was going to turn out, and as you'd guess, it didn't turn out in the way I expected, but not in a bad way. It was a fantastic trip. I thought what we'd do today actually is we'll do a bit of a Q&A on the whole CES Vegas thing, because even though that's tech related, it is content creation related, because I went there as a content creator, and I think a lot of people seem to have a lot of questions and a lot of interest in CES and how it works from someone like my perspective. And I'm a first timer, so I certainly I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have now spent a week in Vegas at CES as a content creator. So if you have got some questions about that, please let me know. I've got the CES kind of hangover, and that's not through drink, it's through just being very busy and very jet lagged. But the CES hangover / bug has definitely hit me. So if I look a bit terrible and sound a bit terrible and keep coughing occasionally, that's why. So today, guys, we'll talk about that, I think, at the end. But I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of the Creator Academy, because it starts in just over a week's time. So on the 29th of January, the first video will be going out to people who have signed up to the Academy. If you are one of those people, thank you very much for doing that. Whether you're watching this live now, excuse the car horn, whether you're watching this live now or you're watching this in the future, thank you for signing up. Time is running out slowly. We've still got over a week, like I say, and if you want to get involved and follow in my footsteps and learn all sorts of things about this business that I don't talk about publicly, it's time to get signed up. But I do appreciate that you may need a bit more to go on than just me saying it's great, go off and spend some money. So I just thought I'd quickly go through what's going to be in the Creator Academy, and also just take as many questions from you about it as possible. Because again, you probably have some questions, even if you have no interest in signing up to it, but you've still got questions about the Academy, maybe for the future, because this is something that's going to be running throughout the year. This isn't the only cohort that we're running. It's going to be multiple versions of this throughout the year. If you've got questions, just regardless of whether or not you plan on signing up, let's have a chat about it, because I think it will, in terms of what we've built into the course, I think it will spark some conversation anyway, because there's some interesting stuff in here. So let's bring up in a much bigger window than that, let's bring up the stages. So what I've done is break up the Academy into 4 stages, and these are roughly the stages that I've been through myself during this journey. So it's when I think back to how I got to where I am now from where I started, I went through these 4 stages really, and within those stages there are lots of different modules which talk about how I made my way through each stage. So stage 1 is mindset, and this is something which, no matter where you've come from, whether you have some form of content creation background, or you do something that is roughly linked to this game, like I did. I came from a marketing background predominantly, and to a degree a production background. That was linked to this, but equally I had to get in a mindset to be a content creator. And a lot of the way that you get into that mindset, you only know with hindsight, and I do have the benefit now of hindsight, which is why I'm putting that into the Academy. But that first stage, the 3 modules in there are all about getting your brain and your body and just everything about you ready to become a content creator. Whether or not you have big ambitions to start a kind of full-time business like I have, or just to do something on the side and unleash your creativity on the world. It's all about finding your purpose, which sounds a bit fluffy and rubbish, but trust me, you do need to know what your purpose is as a content creator. Also defining your sub-niche. A lot of talk about niching down in this industry, which is an incredibly annoying phrase, but it's abundant. It's absolutely true. You do have to niche down very tightly. I was talking to my general manager Niall about this earlier, that YouTube really is brutal. I mean, YouTube's just one platform, obviously, but YouTube's a very good example of a platform that is brutal when it comes to railroading you down a particular niche. So I'm known as the guy who reviews MacBooks and headphones and smartphones. It's those three categories, really. And if I do anything outside of that, for instance, an EV, a car, or a TV, I can't be guaranteed the sort of views and engagement that come with my core topics. And that can be really frustrating. And it's this part of the content creator journey that is one of the hardest to get your head around. Again, it's like any form of marketing, that the best marketing campaigns are very targeted, and they pick on a group of people which feels very small. It doesn't feel like you're giving yourself a big opportunity, but because it's so small and tightly kind of defined, that's where the gold dust is. So defining your sub-niche is a big part of that. And then getting into a content habit, one of the most common questions I'm asked is, how do you remain consistent? How do you get into the habit of creating content? I do have an unfair advantage these days insofar as this is my business, and if I don't have that habit, money doesn't come into the bank account and we can't pay the mortgage. So I do have that benefit, but equally, I still have to have a habit, and I've spent a long time building a content habit, far longer than the 4 years I've been doing this. It's something I've been doing for a long time. Stage 2 is all about platforms, and I mentioned YouTube earlier, but there are lots more platforms that I use to kind of get my stuff out there. So beyond YouTube, we have Instagram, we have TikTok. Those two have really come of age for me. I never thought I'd say I'm a TikTok creator at all, but I am. I've got 21,000 followers on there, which is mind-blowing. And that platform, ironically, has given me the most number of views in terms of big videos. So I've got a million plus I think 2 million plus videos on there in terms of views. I've not got that on YouTube. I think that the biggest video we have on YouTube is about 700,000 views. So TikTok's a big deal, although it's not monetized at the moment for me. It's a big deal, and I go into why it's a big deal, obviously, in the academy, but again, happy to take questions now on that as well. Your own website, everything revolves around your own website. You have to have your own website. I've talked to some of my fellow creator mates about this recently, and we were always kind of sharing ideas and advice, and it's amazing to me anyway, because it's just something that I do, but it's amazing to me that some of them don't have or haven't really had web presences that they've put a lot of effort and time into. And that's okay, me saying that, because I come from that background where I understand how important that part is from a marketing perspective. But if you started on YouTube and YouTube is just your thing, I completely understand why you're not thinking about a website. But the website, your own website, is the thing that you actually control, and it's everything that comes off the website, whether it be people signing up to your newsletter. You control that audience, and it's your thing. No one can take it away from you. So that's a huge part of this. Medium does get a mention, although, again, I'm happy to take questions about this now. Medium is, in fact, I posted about this morning on X, that it's died a death. Was it yesterday I posted? Whenever it was, this week I posted the fact that, for me, Medium has absolutely died a death this month. It's awful the way it's performing. And all my fears about it they've kind of come true, unfortunately. It's tragic, because that was such a big part of this business, and it's no longer a big part of it. And it seems as though I'm not alone. A lot of people have got the same problem with it. So, but it does make an appearance in the platform section, as does Twitter/X and LinkedIn and podcasting as well. So we go through all of that stuff in detail in terms of how I create content for those platforms, how to make the best use of those platforms, how to get started, which ones you perhaps should use, which ones you shouldn't use, repurposing content, all that good stuff. In fact, that part comes next. Apologies. So that brings me on to stage 3, which is content creation, which I think for a lot of people is the bit you want to get to. You want to just start creating content as soon as possible. I get that. It's the exciting part of it. It's the creating the videos. It's the writing blog posts. It's the, recording podcasts. But you do have to go through those first 2 stages before you even hit record or start typing. So we get to this point after a good deal of work, but it is the exciting bit. And yeah, I go through everything in terms of the way that I create content, how I plan content, again, how I repurpose content, the processes behind the scenes. I even share, for the first time ever, a recording of me, a raw A-roll recording. So, like any YouTube channel, the videos that you see on Mark Ellis Reviews are polished because they've been edited, they've been tweaked, they've been kind of cut down, all of the, everything's been, all the guff and the mistakes and stuff have been left on the cutting room floor. So for the first time ever in the academy, I've decided to share a completely unedited A-roll. Even talking about it now is horrible because they are, at times, I've talked about this before on this live stream, horrendous shoots. I've been through a period with those A-roll shoots. I'm still kind of going through it now where I almost dread them. I don't enjoy them at all. And every time I finish, I hit stop on the camera and just think that was awful, horrible. I'm all stressed and I've said the same thing 8,000 times, and yet I can do this. I've been talking now for how long? 11 minutes, and I've not felt like I need to stop and re-record. Yet there's something about sitting down and filming a video, as in a YouTube video, that makes me kind of clam up. And I'm not alone with this. I've spoken to so many other creators, some big, some smaller, some my size. And it's a very common thing, really common thing. So I thought, just to kind of reveal how that sometimes pans out, and also just the reality of stuff behind the scenes. Yeah, you'll get to see a raw recording of me screwing things up and taking quite a long time to do anything, which won't be easy to watch from my perspective, but will be a good laugh for the people that see it. But yeah, we go into the art of storytelling and everything behind content, which is what this is all about. And finally, the last stage is the revenue and growth, and this is the exciting bit insofar as it's about money, it's about numbers, it's about how this business makes it ensures money comes into the bank account and I can pay that mortgage. And again, in terms of the questions that I get, one of the most common questions is, how do I charge for sponsors? How do I make sure I'm not undercharging? Where do you find sponsors? How do I ensure my AdSense revenue is as optimized as it should be? Where do I find affiliates? How do I manage all that stuff? Those elements of the academy are things that I don't really share. I share to a degree publicly. I've done some of my earnings reports type things, type stuff on Substack, but I'll be going into a lot more detail, as far as I can, obviously in terms of contractual obligations and NDAs and things. But I will be talking quite explicitly about how this business generates money and how we work with sponsors, because that is how you keep the lights on and keep doing this for a living. So I just wanted to share that with you, and maybe that will give you some questions now in terms of what that's all about. And let me bring me back to full screen. There we go. Any questions, guys, about the academy? So let me come back to the comments so I can see what's going on. Have a quick drink of water as well. I knew there was going to be a Vision Pro message. Aaron Patrick, QuickBooks chap, says, here to find out if Mark has pre-ordered and a plane ticket ready for Vision Pro. I have pre-ordered it, actually. That's a complete other story. There is a very interesting thing around. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Before we finish today, I promise I'll talk about Vision Pro briefly, because although that's tech related, there's a very big angle here in terms of content creation, because, well, I'll come on to why. Lots of familiar faces, and the fish finger reapers here, which is always a good thing. Yeah, there's a couple of CES questions which I will come to. Alan, Solo Club merch. Yeah, these aren't for sale, by the way. They will be at some point. I've never sold merch before. It always feels a bit odd selling merch, because I'm just some bloke from Northampton who would want things that I wear. But I do quite like the Solo Club logo. Obviously, it's my brand. At some point, we'll make some stuff available. Matthew O'Brien. If you haven't seen this, by the way, Matthew is a very talented videographer, editor, filmmaker, everything, but also a YouTuber. I don't know how he does both things at the same time. I don't know how he finds the time to do that, but he does it. And he was a brilliant guest on the Solo Club podcast a couple of weeks ago. I think the episode went live. If you haven't checked that out yet, and if you haven't checked out his channel, please do so. But Matthew, you're saying it's been interesting to see a lot of these I'm quitting or scaling back videos on YouTube earlier this year. especially after our chat from a few weeks ago. Yeah, it's a really good point. I know who you. I think I probably guess who you're referring to. There have been a few big YouTubers recently who have said, I'd say I'm done for now. It's all whenever they say this, they always say I'm quitting YouTube, and then a bit later on in the video they say I might be back, but of course they'll be back. Anyway, if you get past 1 million subscribers, I don't think you're ever going to leave your channel completely. I think you are going to come back at some stage. I'm very conscious of banging on the table, by the way, because I'm still relying on the MacBook Pro speakers, so apologies if I did that. Yeah, I mean, it's each to their own, isn't it? I mean, if you decide to quit and go and do something else, why not? What does bother me with these maybe I'll do this one day, I'll have to eat my own words, but if you are going to leave YouTube, just go, make a video about it and say, this is my last video. Or maybe do a little bit of a lead up. Don't spend weeks and months and months and weeks going on about it. And then when, after you've said that you're going to leave, come up and post three more videos. Some people might know who I'm referring to here. Won't mention his name, but just leave. Go. Because after a while, it gets a bit boring. And your audience is going to get fed up with you saying, I'm going. Because it just sounds like you're waiting for someone to say, no, don't go. No, please don't go, stay. Just go. Leave. Fine. Scaling back is another thing, actually. That's something completely different, isn't it? And it's something that I talked about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, on the last Solo Club live stream, where I was talking about the stats from last year, where the stats were, most of them were up amazingly last year. It was an incredible year for the channel and for the business. But equally, there were a couple that bothered me, which were the lost subs and also the average view duration. And looking at the number of videos that we made last year, was ridiculous. So we were reviewing these earlier, the numbers earlier. And I think in October last year, we published 16 videos, which, crazy. Yet in December, and this is for Mark Ellis reviews, obviously, in December, we published 8. And it was still a really good month in terms of numbers. And you think 8, that's manageable. That's 2 a week, which is still a lot of content, don't get me wrong, but it's not 16. And revenue was still quite good that month as well. So you look at that and think, okay, we can scale back a bit here. And there was someone recently, I can't remember who it was, so I don't want to misquote the wrong person, but someone mentioned on, I think it was on Twitter the other day, said, that they get the feeling that 2024 is going to be about slowing down a bit and just producing the right content, not pumping stuff out all the time. So I've been guilty of that, I think, in 2023, and that's something we're working on. So I understand why people want to scale back, because it's a lot of work. You can really overwhelm your diary and overwhelm your audience, I think, as well, and overwhelm a niche. So yeah, that's going to be one of the big challenges, but also one of the plans for this year. Kevin is calling in from Lakeland, Florida, as always jealous. Some other Vegas questions coming in. I'll come back to those in a second. What's this about LinkedIn? Follow you on LinkedIn. Oh, that's nice. Nice, but also slightly embarrassing because I don't post on LinkedIn anymore. Although it's part of the academy, it's something which I've got to do more of myself. I did spend quite a lot of time last year working on LinkedIn content, but time disappeared for that. So saw the praise you were getting from people you work with. That's very nice. Who were they? That's the one thing about LinkedIn that scares me slightly, is that as soon as you post something, loads of people that you used to work with are kind of dragged up from the archives of your memory, and that's not a bad thing normally, but there might be occasionally someone who you think, I thought I'd forgotten about you in that period. That's my problem. Very nice, very kind of you, James, to be following me on LinkedIn. I promise I'll do more on LinkedIn. I promise. Raphael's here because of Matthew O'Brien. Amazing. This is why it's so worthwhile doing collaborations, because it does extend your reach to other people's audiences, and I hope Matthew has got some new audience members from my side of things as well. Flavour of the month, I'm quitting. Yeah, do we talk more about this? I don't know. Again, I don't want to mention any names, but I just think I don't know. There's probably not much more to say on this, really. What I would like to know is some of the people who have done this is why they're quitting. I think it would be nice for them to share the reason for that, because quite often it's just a kind of, I've had enough, or I've got bigger plans, or something, which is fine. Maybe the stuff that they can't talk about. But it would be nice to know, just from my perspective, and I guess their audience's perspective, why are you quitting? Are you, if you are fed up with this, what is it about it that you're fed up with? And some of the people that are doing this have been on YouTube for a long, long time, and I understand you can probably get a bit jaded after a while, which is fine. But again, it'd just be nice to see a bit of transparency in terms of the reason that people are doing this. Who knows? We'll never know, perhaps. Excuse me. More Vision Pro questions, which I'll come on to in a bit. Oh, look, we've got more quitting things. Mark, hello, Mark. Totally agree about the YouTube quitters. It's a weird form of clickbait. It is a little bit, isn't it? It's very much trying to draw attention to the same topic again and again and again, which I know is what we do on YouTube. But I think when the topic is something where it's clearly very personal, and I don't know, it just sounds a bit desperate, doesn't it? Always makes me think of Elton John doing one more tour, which ends up happening for several decades. True, although I think his last one is his last one, isn't it? I think that's it now. I know what you mean. Nothing like the start of a new year and a long Christmas break to help YouTubers get a better understanding of what they really care about. It's true. I think that even it's that weird thing, isn't it, where you plan, you go through Christmas and you get into the new year. I talked about this last couple of weeks ago, I think. Really, that time between Christmas and New Year is still just a day or two. Yeah, it feels like a really big thing that you get over. Let's start again. Let's start planning. But I've always done that every year. I've spent that time thinking about the year ahead and how to change things. And again, as I've said before, the amount of data that we get from YouTube, the amount of numbers that we can just draw out of YouTube Studio is so invaluable in terms of giving you direction for where you're going. And I have the benefit of having my general manager, Niall, who's working very hard on those stats. One thing I would advise doing, and this is not something that I've done personally because he's doing it for me, and it was largely his, in fact, it was completely his idea, I think, is to build your own little stats thing, whether it be a spreadsheet or if you're smart enough with Notion and databases and stuff. I know it sounds like a lot of work and you shouldn't have to do this, but actually, you can manipulate that data in terms of working out what it means far easier if you get it out of YouTube Studio. And we've found that putting it into a spreadsheet and looking month by month at all the key metrics, so the views, the AVD, the click-through rates, the top performing videos, looking at that, just seeing that in a simple table, which is very difficult to get in. As great as YouTube Studio is, nailing down the exact view of your data to your liking is quite tricky. So having this kind of manual spreadsheet that we're working from has been invaluable. I'd really recommend doing that. And it's not something I would have done without getting Niall on board, really. So definitely worth it. So Raphael says, 2023 was my scale back year, and it was a good year. Evergreen content for the win. Brilliant. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'd be interested to know what you mean by scale back here. I guess you mean perhaps creating less content, possibly. And what content do you create? Excuse my ignorance, I'd love to know what you do. Yes, I can see what you mean. So I guess you're scaling back on creating content and focusing on making evergreen stuff that's going to hang around for a long time. And those classic videos where you make them and it's a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 to begin with, but it doesn't matter because they go into your archives, they become a body of work, and over time they start to generate views and become very valuable. And equally, that sort of content can completely out of the blue become very relevant through external influences. So something may happen in your industry, or a piece of news or a new product release or something may happen that then draws interest in that video that you made 12 months ago, 2 years ago. You get that in tech to a degree. It's not quite, I think with tech it happens less regularly because the stuff that we cover is very of the moment. Products are superseded annually normally, unless they're the AirPods Max, which that's a great example actually of a piece of evergreen content because Apple hasn't updated those headphones for 3 years. So the videos that I'm making about AirPods Max, or I've made about them years ago, are still going strong. But yeah, there's certainly chair breaking. There's certain niches, particularly educational stuff, where it's a body of work really, which does hopefully in the future keep bringing you those viewers and subscribers and a bit of AdSense revenue as well. What ROI would you put on an editor? We have an employee who does our video editing. The channel is monetized, but not bringing anywhere near to cover the salary. So need to justify salary. Any tips? Aaron, I don't have an editor. Well, the only editor I have two. I have Niall, who's a very good editor, but also another guy who does some short form stuff for us. And that's both on they're both on the short form side of things. So the long form videos for Mark Ellis reviews, I still edit myself. No one has ever edited. No one else, sorry, has ever edited a Mark Ellis reviews main video. I was talking to Pete Matheson about this. If you know Pete Matheson, do a quick search. You'll find him very quickly. He's got a very, very good tech YouTube channel. Started roughly the same sort of time as me. Covers very similar things. We went to CES together. We spent a lot of time together there. And he has an editor, and he can't believe that I'm still editing my videos. He said, "Where do you find the time to do it? Just get rid of it. Let someone else do it." Very much of the Ali Abdaal mindset, which is you should not be editing your own videos. Do it to begin with because you have to. The whole point of building a channel is that you have to do everything yourself to begin with. But one of the first things you should do is offload the editing. I completely agree with that. But it's a classic thing where it's my problem completely. It's letting go of editing is really tricky. Even thinking about it now, it frightens me to death because, again, going back to that A-roll thing that I mentioned earlier, where I do the A-roll shoot and I hate it, but I know, even though I hate it, I think it was terrible, I know that as soon as I put it into the laptop, into Final Cut Pro, I can make it work. I can turn it into a story, and 9 times out of 10, it performs the way I want it to. Giving that task to someone else it's like giving the main keys of the business to someone. It's like giving someone the keys to your Ferrari without them having insurance and never having driven a Ferrari before. It's that worry. It's totally illogical because you could give them the keys to your Ferrari and they could be a much better driver than you and look after it better than you ever could and never curb the wheels and all the rest of it. But none of that matters. That's all irrelevant because it's all up here. It's that. And what interests me is that there are still a lot of big tech channels out there where the main person still edits the video. So MKBHD is a great example of this. He does have an editor now, but I think he still edits a lot of the videos himself. And he's been doing this for 10 years, and he's got 15 million subscribers. He can afford it. He could afford a room full of editors, but he still does a lot of it himself, and he's not alone. So that gives me some, I suppose. It gives me a bit of reassurance that I'm not doing the right thing, but it's justified to a degree. Coming back to your question, though, Aaron, I think that part of the reason I haven't gone with an editor is because I prioritised this space. So back in 2021, I think it was, I had the option in my head of either getting an editor in or getting a space, and within seconds it was this. This made more sense to me. I was fed up of making videos in the back bedroom, running out of space and leaving a mess everywhere. The idea of having a space that I could create stuff in and just leave as a mess and not worry about was right up there. Again, I don't know your situation with everything else. I think in terms of ROI for an editor, it's so hard to figure this out. And as you're finding, good video editors are not cheap. They're expensive for a reason, because it's a very technical job. You need a lot of skill to do it properly, and there's a lot of work involved. They're full time. They have to be full time. How do you put ROI on it? I think you have to look at the basics. I think you have to look at what those videos make. I think if I started bringing in an editor, I would really start paying a lot more attention to the profit from each video. So what's it costing per hour for that person to edit the video? What's it costing in my time to shoot the A roll and B roll? And then what are we getting back from that in terms of AdSense, sponsors? The Vision Pro thing, well, this kind of ties into that, which we'll come on to before we finish off. But what are you getting from AdSense, sponsors, affiliate revenue? Those three revenue streams, are they at least covering the cost of your time and the editor's time? Because if they are, that's a good thing. That's what you want. You can build from that basically as the channel grows. What you don't want is the editor to be taking all the money and being a loss leader basically. So, but it's very difficult to work that out, Aaron. So I think you're doing the right thing in terms of getting someone to do the edits. But I personally, I can't justify it at the moment, mainly because of the thing I mentioned a moment ago, which is just my head, but also because I'm investing elsewhere in the business, and it would feel like an expense I'm not comfortable with at the moment. I think that was a long answer. I hope some of that made sense. Rob's on board. Rob from 8 or 16 fame. Rene starts. So yeah, Rob's referring to Rene Ritchie, who he didn't really officially quit YouTube, did he? Because he went to work for YouTube. So he went from being an independent content creator to well, he went from being at iMore, then to being an independent content creator, then to working for YouTube completely out of the blue, and just stopped posting on his YouTube channel. So I don't think he officially did the whole. Maybe he did. I can't remember. But he has come back. He's now said he's coming back. He's going to do some new videos, which aren't going to be Apple centric apparently. I wasn't keen on that video though, but it's worth looking at again from this kind of whole content creation thing. It's worth watching Rene's video because he kind of comes back on and basically tears apart the tech review industry, which I'm obviously going to be slightly hurt by that, but it has changed a lot since he left, I think, and I don't know, I didn't quite like the way he approached it, but it's worth watching, definitely. And each their own, he's got his own, he's entitled to his opinion. What else have we got here? Do you like working with other YouTubers and any plans around this? I love working with other YouTubers. Funny enough, just before this, I was working, again, not editing, I was working on the video, the next collaboration that I did with Patrick Rambles. We did it in Vegas. We shot it in his hotel room, which sounds really weird as I'm saying that, but we were just showing each other, this is still getting strange, we were showing each other what was in our backpacks. Stop talking about. And yeah, so that's the next collaboration. And it's, again, going back to what I said about Matthew O'Brien a moment ago, it opens you up to another audience and it makes for more interesting content, I think. They're much harder to make than you think. Well, for me at least, anyway. I watch a lot of kind of collaborative content where you get a couple of your favourite YouTubers on screen at the same time and they're interacting and having a laugh and stuff. Trust me, when you actually go and do that yourself, it's very, it can be quite nerve-wracking. Like when me and Patrick were literally sat in his hotel room, a couple of chairs, a couple of cameras, and we've done this before on a couple of occasions, but it never really gets any easier or any less slightly awkward because the camera starts rolling and then you've got no script really that you're working from. We were literally just going through what was in our tech bags, but it always feels a little bit, I don't know, like I say, a little bit awkward, and getting that banter going, even though you have it completely naturally off camera. Again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier about the A-roll shoots being very difficult. As soon as this thing starts rolling, something happens, and you're very conscious of that. So it's not as easy as it seems. But regardless of that, in answer to your question, James, yeah, I love working. I think you have to be a bit careful about how many collaborations you do. But yeah, absolutely want to do more. There was a mini collaboration in my Samsung S24 Ultra video 2 days ago, where Ben from Lover of Tech, who I don't know if he's watching this, probably not because he's only just got back from the States, I think he's probably in bed, but he briefly appeared in that video, and that was completely by chance. We didn't plan that at all. We were both at the Samsung hands-on in Vegas in the same room. And I just overheard him talking about the camera system, and if you know Ben, you know that he knows everything about smartphone cameras, and he was getting very excited, very animated. So I rushed over, turned the camera on him, and he just started talking about it, and it ended up in the video. So again, completely off the cuff, not planned, but it's a nice thing to do, and yeah, it's a great idea. Hit the like button. Yeah, hit the like button, please, guys. Thanks, Raphael, for mentioning that. Rob, pretty sure your manual metric spreadsheet could be rebuilt in Googly Sheets and updated automatically from the YouTube Analytics API. Yeah, I'm sure it can, Rob, and we will do that at some stage. I think we're probably in the alpha phase, the alpha/beta phase at the moment in terms of building it. But yeah, at some point it will get to the stage where it totally makes sense to automate it. But we're having quite a lot of fun at the moment, just fiddling around with it and building it from there. Still talking about Rene Ritchie's comeback video. Rene's forgotten how to colour grade. It's a bit weird, isn't it? It's a bit misty. I don't know if he's got a pro mist filter on his lens. He shoots with a C500 cinema camera, which I've never understood. very well. Again, each their own, but yeah, a very odd colour grade in that. Again, each to their own. My colour grades aren't fantastic, but yeah. Matthew says, Patrick's great, glad you guys are collaborating. He's brilliant. Patrick's a great guy to work with. Okay, any other questions on content stuff? All right, let's get to CES. Let's talk about CES. Why not? Hit me with questions about CES and Vision Pro. Let's do both. There was a couple I missed earlier. No, I'm not a gambler. Nothing wrong with gambling, obviously, but I've got no interest in gambling whatsoever. I didn't even sit down on a slot machine and put a few dollars in there, which I planned to have a quick bash on, but the time just disappeared in Vegas, which is what happens in Vegas, doesn't it? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, yada, yada, yada. I didn't gamble in Vegas, no. And also, I wouldn't know what to do apart from the slot machines. I often walk past those tables where there's loads of people gathered around them playing whatever they're playing. I just think if I walked up to that, I wouldn't have a clue what to say, how to get started. I'd make such a fool of myself. Even if I did a bit of research beforehand, I would utterly make an idiot of myself. So, yeah, no gambling. Did I get enough thoughts and encounters at Vegas CES? Thoughts and encounters, lots of thoughts. It's very overwhelming. Talk about this a little bit on the 8 or 16 podcast this week, actually, which will go out tomorrow. It's very overwhelming because it's so big. If you're not aware, it's spread across the Las Vegas Convention Center, across 3 halls, all of which are just ridiculously big. It's also in the Venetian Expo, and it's dotted around a few of the other hotels as well. And there's lots of other little events and things that are going on throughout the entire week. And then before CES starts, actually, you get 2 press days, which are at the Mandalay Bay, at the Convention Center up there. Again, that's just ridiculously big as well. So in terms of getting enough thought, that's a really good way of putting it, thoughts and encounters. Thoughts is that it's definitely worth doing again. And it sparked a lot of ideas, a lot of, I guess, ideas for content this year in terms of what is going to be of interest. A lot of what happens at CES is never going to see the light of day, obviously, but and equally, obviously, we knew that AI was going to be the main thing, the main kind of topic of conversation. The see-through display thing, see-through TVs was a bit of a surprise, but again, could be interesting for the rest of the year, through certain things this year, if you excuse the pun. Encounters was probably the best part of it, really. Just having time, like I say, just spend time with Pete, with Ben, with Patrick, and with a bunch of other YouTubers and content creators and press people who either I'd passed occasionally and bumped into at other events, or people who I'd never met before in person. So 2 or 3 people that I've met, I've kind of dealt with over Twitter, or I may have collaborated with or been on their podcast. I did have a full circle moment, actually, which I was going to talk about at the start of this video, but I completely forgot. Just very quickly, and this is definitely related to Solo Club stuff. When I first started this, when I first decided to start the YouTube channel, the Mark Ellis Reviews YouTube channel, I listened to loads and loads of podcasts. I really got obsessed with YouTube podcasts, people talking about the industry, how to get started. And one guy that I really remember listening to an awful lot, he kind of soundtracked all of my gym visits back there, my runs, my dog walks, cooking in the kitchen. I'd be listening to him as well. A guy called Liron Sergey, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, Liron. He was at that point, I think, working with vidIQ. I think he's now I think fully independent. Runs a very successful YouTube channel. I think he's approaching 1 million subscribers at the moment. Does a lot of tech-related content, tech help type content. Really knowledgeable guy. And he's very kind of well known in the industry. Very, very present at these events. And like I said, I probably spent 18 months listening to that guy. He taught me an awful lot. By proxy, really. And so it was very surreal, as you can probably imagine, to be sat in a little private bar thing that had been booked out in Caesar's Palace by these people, actually, by the what was it called? The Hot Tech Awards. It's like this little YouTuber gathering that happens every year apparently at CES. I managed to sneak into. Lots of some fairly big names in there. But he was there basically, and he came over. Just because I was sat there with someone else, and he popped over and sat down, and it was just this very surreal full circle moment where I'd gone from walking around, the fields and stuff with my dog and running and stuff, listening to this guy talk about YouTube and thinking, yeah, I want to get into this. I want to become a YouTuber and do this. Nearly 4 years later, I'm sat with him in Las Vegas at the biggest tech conference in the world, talking about YouTube. It was very surreal. Lovely bloke, by the way, really down to earth. Very humble. He was kind of bowled over by the fact that I'd been listening to him for that long. A real one of those full circle moments where you just think, it's worked out, all right. That thing worked. Very strange. So yeah, but the encounters at CES, brilliant. I think if you've got any interest in being a tech creator, and you get to the point where things are working for you, and you're building an audience, if you can get out there, it's worth doing. I wasn't sure if it would be. I went with a very open mind, thinking maybe this would be the first and only CES that I ever go to. But I left thinking, no, this is an annual thing. The value you get from this thing, and it paid for itself as well. To be completely open, I had a job while I was there, which was a sponsor integration I shot while I was there. That pretty much paid for the entire trip, which was great. So if you get into that position where you can ideally fund it through those means, or if you can justify the potential of it being a loss leader, being a cost and overhead, do it. 100% do it. It's not public. It's not open to the public, so you do have to be in the industry in some way. To be part of the press like I was, they have a bunch of thresholds for monthly views and things like that, and subscribers that you have to have passed, but they're quite low actually. They're not that high, but yeah, 100% worth it. It was absolutely fantastic. Let's grab another glass of water, sip of water rather. Yeah, as Rob says, lots of CES chat on the with Mark on the 8 or 16 podcast. I asked Rob to ask me questions about it because my brain is still a bit mushy, and like I mentioned earlier, I've got the CES bug, so I'm not quite with it at the moment. But Rob did a great job as always of getting that stuff out of me. So thanks, Rob. Definitely worth a listen and a watch of that tomorrow. I told you my brain was everywhere. Any other questions, guys, on CES? Should we talk about Vision Pro quick? Let's talk about Vision Pro. So this is very much content related. So if you weren't aware, Vision Pro, which is Apple's next bid for the next era of computing, they think it's going to be us living in this kind of spatial computing world where you don't use your phone, you actually have a thing strapped to your face, whether it be at the moment a massive, very heavy apparently, device over your eyes, or eventually, which is what I guess they want, a pair of glasses that are about this big and do the same thing. That is, spatial computing is the next era as far as Tim Cook is concerned. So it's a big deal. Whether or not it works out, it's a big tech thing anyway. So from my perspective, it's an absolute no-brainer to cover it. I'm an Apple guy. I'm known for covering Apple stuff. If I didn't cover Vision Pro, there'd be a problem. The challenge with this is that the pre-orders for it went live today, but they only went live in the US. So there's no word whatsoever of when or even if it's coming to the UK or anywhere else. It will, presumably at some stage, but no one knows when. There are rumours about it potentially arriving before WWDC, which is in June. So this left me with a conundrum, which was either wait on those rumours and hope they're correct, but who knows, they may not be, because Apple being Apple, they would be very last minute with their press release on that. So either do that or somehow get one from the States and try and be one of the first UK reviewers of a channel of my size to get one and review it and do stuff with it. So we talked about it with Niall, my general manager, and also a consultant that I have who's based in Canada, and we came to the conclusion that it made a huge amount of sense to jump on this, and that's what we've done. So unbelievably, somehow, because I'd got to the stage earlier today where I thought it's going to be tricky to get one of these. I was listening to the Waveform podcast at the gym just before I came back to try the pre-order, and they were talking about it, and they said it's rumoured that there's only 50 to 60,000 units available for the pre-order, and I think it was Mark Ellis Brownlee said it's going to be impossible to get one. And when he said that, I thought he's got to be right, hasn't he? So I came back here after the gym thinking, this probably isn't going to happen. I'll give it a go, but it's probably not going to happen. And the mechanics of this, we decided the best way to do it would be to have someone in the United States, a trusted person in the United States, who would act as the address for the delivery, because you have to have a delivery somewhere in the US. So we had that person who is in Arizona, very trusted, and that person is the person who gave me their address to have the. This sounds all dodgy, but trust me, it's all very much above board, and I do trust this person. So we had an address in the US, and the thing I suddenly realised this morning is that I probably needed a credit card that had a billing address in the States as well, and it wouldn't let me add one without that. So I had that on my mind as well, thinking I can only do this if Apple Pay works. So it came 1 o'clock UK time, which is when it went on pre-order. Dived into the app and it crashed immediately and didn't work and hung for ages and just did nothing for ages. And I kept faffing around and then realised that when I got to the point of putting the address in and getting to the Apple Pay bit, which seemed to be working, realised that I didn't have Apple Pay set up on this new laptop. So I had to add the card and then do the whole text thing to get it verified and all that stuff. I'm just standing, when you're pre-ordering something and you just think, I'm taking so long doing this, it's almost pointless. The delivery date is going to be in September by now. Nope. Got it all through, clicked the Apple Pay button, did the old thumb thing, the old Touch ID, and it went through. And the delivery date is the 6th of February. So it slipped a few days, 4 or 5 days from the original date. And it's being delivered to my person in Arizona, weird, and then that's going to be shipped. It's going to be shipped from there to the UK once it's done. So I'm not sure how long that process is going to take, but it's here. The import duty on that bad boy is going to be off the scale. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's going to cost a packet. The reason that we're doing this is because, one, as I say, I want to get in there early. It makes sense from a content perspective, and two, it shouldn't cost anything. So it's expensive, but the way to look at this kind of content is that you need to get it sponsored. So in the past, I may have ordered it and just taken the hit. And I used to do that before the channel got a bit bigger and we started being able to get bigger sponsors. But we are now in a position where we can pitch this to a number of sponsors and say, look, do you want to get on board with this video? Which in theory, can't guarantee this, but it should do well. And equally, it's something which you could you could kind of work with us for a longer period of time, because we're not going to make one video about Vision Pro, basically. Excuse me. So basically, it's going to be a sponsored video. I've got some ideas about what I'm going to be doing with that sponsored video, which will be interesting. But yeah, that's the plan. So it's on its way. It will be on its way to America, and then over the Atlantic to the UK. And the way that we're going to, like I say, fund this is get the video sponsored, and just do a shed load of content about it, which will be interesting to see what the interest is in that, and what the kind of I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to just trying the thing, but also hopefully making a big thing of it on the channel. Again, I can't guarantee, as I mentioned earlier on when I was talking about the academy, there's no guarantee that video will work. All we can do is get it sponsored to cover the cost, which is fine. As long as we break even with it, I'm happy with that. But we can't guarantee that video is going to perform amazingly. It may not. People may not have any interest in it whatsoever. But at least it will become a collector's item, and I can say I've got the first version. Who knows? Another bonus of having a slight delay is that you'll be able to watch the US reviews and cover all the stuff they inevitably miss. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that's true. Although I do have a thing with this where if I get something later than everyone else, I purposefully do not watch the other reviews, because I just don't want to be what's the word? I don't want to have my mind swayed in a certain direction. I'd much rather go at it fairly neutrally, if that makes sense. But I know what you mean, Mark. There is a kind of option with that. I think I saw another Vision Pro question here somewhere. Let's have a look. Hit me with questions though, guys, if you've still got them. We've still got some time. 10 minutes. Oh, here's one. Thoughts on that rabbit thingy. So this is this is the Rabbit R1. I spoke to Rob about this on 8 or 16. I didn't find it. I didn't even know it was there. This was the problem with CES. I think a few people have said the same thing that have been in the past, that you come back from CES and then you realise that there's loads of things that people are talking about. And the big things that seem to have caught the attention of the press and the media and the public at large, you had no idea about, because you're so focused on doing the things that you're there, going to different meetings, wandering aimlessly around each hall trying to find interesting stuff, that you miss these things. So I think one big learning for me is that next time I'll be spending a lot more time keeping an eye on those pieces of news, keeping an eye on Twitter, on the general chit chat. Again, this is why it's a two-man job really, because you need someone else to be helping you with this. But I never got to see the Rabbit thingy, the Rabbit R1, in person. But I love the idea of it. I think it's a great idea. I'm always a little bit dubious about these things in terms of what the real world benefits, and it wouldn't be one of those things that you use for a bit and then you just forget about because it's just easier to use your phone. The idea with this is that it stops you using your phone. It interacts with apps over the web and does common tasks like ordering Ubers and stuff for you without you having to do all the in-between fiddly bits, which aren't that fiddly. That's the thing. But interesting, but I didn't see it. I had no idea it was there. Ooh, what's this? Here we go. Apple has said there will be limitations to those purchasing the Vision Pro outside of the USA while using it. I think there are going to be, from what I understand, things like the App Store, the music, Apple Music service, obviously, etc. They all require US accounts. Obviously, there are ways around that. Obviously, I genuinely don't know what's going to work. It may turn up and not work at all. I mean, that will be a video in itself, won't it? I don't think that's going to be the case, but yeah, who knows? But yeah, there will be some limitations. What's Rob saying? A montage of you in the coffee shop, sitting in the park, on the treadmill at the gym, having a colonoscopy. Yeah, that would work, wouldn't it? Everyone wants to see that, Rob, don't they? I've got an idea for the first video, actually, which, we'll see how that comes off. But wearing some stupid goggles. Any other questions, guys? It is TikTok gold, I agree. I think anything involving Vision Pro and the googly eyes, what's it called? Eyesight, whatever it's called. It's going to be fun. Will I dare do that? Sit in a coffee shop somewhere wearing it? That's going to take some balls, isn't it? That takes vlogging in public to a whole new level. I'm sure there's another question that I missed. Let's have a look. Any other questions, guys? We've still got a little bit more time here. Oh, this was the question I thought I missed. So Travis says, will your Vision Pro work in the UK on a I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it will. I think I'll need a US Apple ID to do stuff. I don't know how that's going to work. Do stuff, do certain things, I guess. Who knows? The big question is when we do get it in the UK. I hope, anyway, I assume that the hardware isn't US specific. I'll be able to switch it to UK mode. Lots of unanswered questions with this, which is going to be interesting. Right, guys, I think we're getting pretty much to the end of this. Thank you so much for jumping on board, if you have today. These live streams do seem to be bringing in more people. Oh, what's this, Matthew? What's Matthew saying? Make sure to install Final Cut Pro right away and tell me what you think. Is it more like Final Cut Pro for iPad or Final Cut Pro for desktop? Is Final Cut Pro ready for it then? I don't know much about Vision Pro at all. I've not really paid attention since the initial announcement last year. So have they actually gone ahead and made Final Cut Pro for it? I know a lot of the demos, a lot of the kind of in-person demonstrations and tests and things they've done with specially invited press. They haven't talked about that sort of stuff. They've been shown like the whole spatial video thing and various other features, but I don't think they've interacted with big apps like that. I might be wrong though. Here's a good question from Alan. Are you covering the new DJI pieces of kit, Pocket 3 or new mics? I won't cover it on the Mark Ellis Reviews channel because it's just not my niche at all. But everything DJI makes, I just want immediately. The Pocket 3, interestingly, I think that was the most, aside from the FX3, that was probably the most common camera that I saw at CES. That, if you don't know what it is, it's like a stick with a little gimbal camera on top of it, and you can attach a DJI mic to it as well, and it's very smooth. It's obviously records nice 4K video and stuff. It's got like a tiltable screen so you can change the orientation. Patrick had one of those actually, and he was very happy with it. But they were everywhere, and I think for about £600, $600, I think it's a bargain for content creators. And the DJI mics, if you're interested, I think they're just called the DJI Mic 2. They have just been launched. They're about 300 quid, 350 quid, something like that. And they have 32-bit float, which is, the best way to describe that is it's a bit like taking a raw photo, but the audio version of that. So it retains a lot more of the, this is a terrible explanation, but more of the data. So if you do shout into it, it won't distort. You can pull it back. If you're very quiet, you can bring it up without bringing up loads of horrible noise and the noise floor and all that sort of stuff. So I don't need them at all. I've got the DJI mics, the first version are brilliant. I don't need the second version at all. But as always, it's just, I don't know how they do it. I just want it. Mark says the Pocket 3 is a beast. Yeah, I agree. I'm just slightly tempted by that, but again, I've spent a lot of money on Vision Pro today, but I'm not going to get the Pocket 3 because I don't need it. In my own words, once you find a vlogging kit, package that works, stick with it. So that's what I'm going to do. Right, guys, I'm going to have to end the stream there, but thank you so much for coming on. We've covered all sorts of different subjects today. We've had CES, we've had the Academy, we've had Vision Pro. It's been good. And as always, your questions just make it. So thanks so much for doing that. Again, not long left to get involved on the Academy, on the Creator Academy. The link is down below if you want to check it out. And if you've got any questions at all, just get in touch. Get in touch. The best way to do that is to join the free Discord server. Again, that's linked below. Callum, who runs the Academy behind the scenes, he's on there. He's very responsive. I'm on there as much as I can be as well. So if you've got any questions about it before signing up, get involved. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you for getting involved. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already. Tell your friends about this channel, and have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you. Oh, it's earlier next week, just so you know. Let me just double check my calendar because I'm away on the Friday next week. We're doing this live stream on, he says, checking Wednesday. So Wednesday next week will be the live stream, but then back to Fridays thereafter. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.